Welcome. Here's what I'll be using on today's 11 by 14 inch hardboard canvas. If you want to use the same papers and stencils I'm using, you can click on the PayHip link below to purchase my digital download files. This will give you instant access to my supply list and instruction sheet, printable collage papers, and my print for hand cut, tracing, or transfer files. Of course, you don't need to purchase these. Feel free to use any stencils that you already have, or you can paint or draw on your own designs. I like to use a hardboard canvas for my art as it will easily take anything I throw at it, but you can use whatever kind of canvas or material base that you prefer. So let's get started. Going through and ripping off all of the white edges from my printed papers. I like to hold my paper with my left hand because I'm right-handed, and then work my way down as I tear my paper. Tearing my newspaper into strips, and then I'm going to go do the same thing with my other collage papers. You can do this long ways or short ways, however you like to do it. And then I'm just going to tear out my individual butterflies. I'm trying to be careful not to tear them in two or tear a wing off, but it's no big deal if I do because I could just decoupage them back together when it comes time to do that. I like to use Mod Podge to decoupage with, and I like to thin it out a little bit, so I add a little water to mine. I just feel like it performs better for me when it's a little bit thinner. I originally created this as a kit to sell on Etsy a few years ago, so that's why every once in a while you see me like I'm talking to somebody because I'm talking to the camera. Now I'm just going through and I'm going to alternate my papers with my newspaper, just trying to come up with an interesting background. I like to apply some Mod Podge first, put my papers down, a little more Mod Podge on top, then I smush with my fingers to get any bubbles out. And I'm not worried if I don't get all the bubbles out. Texture is an awesome thing, so I never freak out about that. And then any place I have some gaps at the end, I will cover those as well with something I think is going to be cool. Next, I'm going to come in with my butterflies, trying to turn them and put them all different ways. I kind of wish I hadn't put this yellow monarch next to the other yellow monarch, but hindsight's 20/20, right? But I like the way it turned out regardless. Hopefully you do too. As with most of my projects, a lot of this is going to be covered up in the end anyway, so I try not to worry too much about it. Now I'm going to take a baby wipe or two, wad it up, and then I'm going to just kiss my canvas all over just to make all the texture the same over the entire canvas. And it dries quicker too. Now I've got my cardstock heart, my modeling paste, and I'm just going to take my little mandala stencil and go all over here and there, putting a few spots on my heart to give it some interest. Now I'm going to take my ribbon and my little trim here and bring them together with a little bit of off-white paint. I also like the texture that paint gives fabric. And I like to put things on wax paper to dry because then I can move them to another part of my studio and work on something else. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my other little silk flowers that I'm going to use here, mixing up a little red and my yellow to make a nice golden color. Then I'm just going to dab a little bit on to just jazz them up just a little bit. Now I'm going to take my white flower apart, and I'm going to take the other centers out of the yellow flowers here in just a minute too. I'm going to add just a little off-white to my flowers. Trying not to glob it on, and then I take my metallic copper and paint all the centers of my flowers. And then I'm going to take a little tiny bit of the of my orangey yellow and just give it a few dots, a couple of dots onto each of the centers. Then I'm going to take my metallic and come right down those leaves. These are just leaves I cut out of bigger leaves of the silk flowers. I don't think they're really silk, but and I think they were all of these flowers were from the Dollar Tree. My modeling paste is dry, and now I'm going to put a layer of Mod Podge all over my heart. Grab my red tissue paper. You see I'm wrinkling it up for a bunch of nice texture, and then I'm just going to push it down and Mod Podge over the top of it. Then I'm going to get my baby wipe and tamp all over gently. I've cleaned up the edges of my board with my X-Acto knife, and now I'm going to start stenciling. Talking about what I use for a dauber. What I call a dauber is a clothespin with a makeup sponge in it. And you leave about a ½ inch at the end open, and it is just the perfect dauber. I like to go in and get a little paint and then tamp it off somewhere else, either on my palette or on my wax paper there, so I don't have too much paint on it. And then I'm gently going to go in and pounce my paint on. I can always add more. Harder to take it off once you got it on. Although I will say, you know, anytime you're working on a Mod Podge surface, if I don't like a whole area, I could easily wipe it off with a baby wipe, dry it, and then come back and hit it again. It's very forgiving when you're working on a Mod Podge surface. And I'm just going all over the canvas and kind of thinking where I want to add more interest or some more detail. No rhyme or reason here, just what looks good to me. My stenciling is dry, and now I'm ready to add some more color. And I'm just going to do it with my fingers. I want a good mix. Now I'll go in with my heat tool between colors to make sure that my first one is dry. Just hit it with a real quick blast. I don't mind the colors melding a little bit, but I don't want too much smearage. Is that a word? I don't think so. Next, I'm going to add in a little red, then some white, keep working with it till I get it like I want it. And I can come in with a baby wipe every once in a while and remove some if I feel like I've got too much some places. I cut off the excess tissue paper off of my heart and then went in with a little bit of my flamenco red and my sponge, tapped in a little bit of red there. Not fully covered the heart. I already got my red on there that I like. And then I'm going to put on a little piece of felt on my dauber. And I'm going to, you see I mixed up a little darker red there, and I'm going to go around my edges with my felt dauber just to darken up and finish off those edges. And then I'm going to tap in a little bit of that darker just here and there on the front of the heart. Now I'm going to flip my felt over to an unused portion, and I'm going to dab on a little bit of that golden color over my modeling paste spots to really highlight those. And then I'll take my off-white and dab on a little bit more highlight. To seal my heart, I'm going to cover it back and front with Mod Podge. And then I'll kiss it with a baby wipe to make sure my texture is all the same. All of my elements are dry and it's time to start putting stuff together. It's getting exciting. And I'm using my Beacon Fast Grab glue. You could use Gorilla or whatever, but I like the Beacon. Just gonna make sure everything's on there really well. I separated some jute so that my strands would be thinner to hook my keys on with. I purchased these keys off of Amazon quite a while ago. But I think one key would be great, or no keys. Or any bits of old jewelry would be cool. Just fraying my ribbon a little bit. I think that gives it a neat end feel for what I'm doing with this canvas. I'm going to raise my heart up a bit so it really stands out with some of that sticky tape. This is from Dollar General, I believe. And they're just little squares or little rectangles. So I'm putting a bunch of them because I want it to be pretty even. I'm also going to add a little bit of Beacon glue in between to make sure that she really sticks down for good. I really like it so far, but I decide I want more color. So I'm going to go back in with my baby wipe and my paints and mess with it until I get it just like I want it. Hey, thanks for joining me today. If you're interested in purchasing my stencil cut files and printables, you could click on the PayHip link below the video. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. I'd also love to hear from you if you want to leave me a comment. If you hit the bell button, YouTube will notify you each time I add a new video. Till next time.